Okay, Mike, you ready to go? We have a guest from very far away today.
This is my wife, Ann. And the reason she's appearing here is that Ann has run 4 Kickstarter campaigns. And when she began, she was a complete tyro. She knew nothing about Kickstarter. Everything she learned about Kickstarter, she got off the internet. 3 of those campaigns were for my books, and one was for her own book. And while the campaigns did not set stratospheric levels to meet, they were not bottom tier levels either. And a lot of people know that when you start a Kickstarter campaign, they choose to set a very low threshold so that you'll meet it within a few hours and the algorithms will kick you way up to the top. But we didn't need to do that. So, Ann, would you like to talk about the Kickstarters? Let's start with the first one that you ran, which I think was for Cue Ball.
Sure, yes, and thank you for having me and interviewing me.
Yeah.
Yes. First of all, I'm going to say I am not the be-all and end-all expert on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. This is more DIY for folks who are thinking about doing a crowdfunding. They've never done it. They've seen other folks. We have Chris Braley, who's now running those for us, and he's fantastic. So, but this is just if you think you want to do it on your own with maybe a little other help, and it can be done. So the first one was Cue Ball, which was several years ago, and it's a comic book, as you probably know. And what I would say is, if you're thinking about doing either a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, is do your research ahead of time. There's a lot of great YouTube videos. There's a lot of good articles, blogs, and such that you can read to learn from folks who've done many of them probably in the past. The other thing is that when you are doing the crowdfunding is that you have to look at like what your goal is. So one of the things Mike had mentioned is sometimes people set the goal at a very low bar. It's not what they need to cover the expenses, but they want the algorithms to kick in so that way they show, hey, this is already funded in 24 hours or 2-3 hours. We didn't do that. Basically, what I did was I looked at what we needed for a minimum goal to pay for printing, postage, pay the artists, the writers. And we did meet our goals and we exceeded them. But I'd say either strategy works really well, but you need to do your research ahead of time and look at what I did was I looked at other Kickstarters and Indiegogos in the same category. So obviously comic books is the category, or if you're doing something about maybe dance or music or artwork, look at those categories and see how people set them up for rewards, how much they were charging for an ebook versus a printed book, how they package things together. And that will teach you a lot. And especially look at the successful ones. Look at the successful crowdfunding and see what they set for their packages, the rewards, and how they introduced the crowdfunding project.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too that you had the good fortune of being able to work with Mike, who is a seasoned professional and has sort of a following. People who are just starting out, it's definitely smart to aim low, but it's like, yeah, if you have any experience at all, and I know there's a lot of professionals or semi-professionals out there that have a decent following and have done a decent amount of stuff, so people know who you are. You can kind of, you can be honest, especially in your videos. Like if you say, okay, this is what we need, and you're not like, oh, we're gonna aim low. It's like, okay, I'm a professional, like Mike or whatever, and say, okay, it costs $5,000, $6,000 to do this. This is what we need. And obviously when you're doing stuff like that, you can do it a little bit cheaper, but that's the good thing about having Mike, and some people, when they try to get going, they will aim really low and they'll kind of undersell themselves when they don't have to, if they have some kind of reputation like Mike does and everything. So that, that's why I'm just saying it wasn't a stupid move, because he has the reputation and stuff, and people know, and that's one of the hardest things is to get people to respect and have confidence in you, and people already know, oh yeah, Mike knows how to write. Yeah, he's written a few comics, so that I was just gonna just say it's not terrible, and that's the biggest thing, and the biggest hurdle is that when you're getting started is just getting started, because it can be overwhelming. I did want to ask you, were there any things that were like, when you were getting started, because obviously you've learned a lot now, were there any things that you that that you specifically remember learning that maybe you thought was one way and then you realize, oh, it's actually this, or I'm surprised I didn't realize
Mhm.
like that was going to be that, or that's a really interesting thing, or something I do need to keep in mind that I didn't know.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. So one of the things I would say is, and I was gonna touch briefly about differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo,
Yeah.
is that Kickstarter does not give you the address of your backers when they become a backer and pay for the rewards. So you have to send out what is called a survey. And some people see in the subject line survey and they think, oh, I don't want to do a survey, but that's the way you can get their addresses. And then Indiegogo gives you the backers' addresses right away as soon as they sign up. So that was kind of a little bit of a little workaround that you had to do with Kickstarter versus Indiegogo. The other thing I would say too is just um, you're right, Jeff, about the fact that Mike is pretty well known in his industry. And if you aren't, then you've got to really make it compelling. You need to look at what are reasons that someone would back this. Is it a certain niche or specialty that people might really be interested in? Is it kind of a hot topic right now? And that is so, like, for instance, I did an Indiegogo on my autobiography and it was fully funded. And it actually, I received a little bit more money than it cost to print the books. And I'm really an unknown entity. I mean, I tried to go ahead and just let folks know in my sphere of influence. And that was the other thing I was going to talk about, is that in the marketing of any crowdfunding is don't just use one way of communicating to your possible backers. We use e-newsletters, obviously Facebook. We use Instagram, YouTube videos, Facebook Lives, direct message people through Messenger. And don't be spammy, but if there's someone who says a comment or they like something that you do, when you do information about the crowdfunding, the Kickstarter, Indiegogo, just message them, say, hey, I see that you like this, you commented. You probably already backed the project, but if you'd like to, here's the link. Make it easy for them. They don't have to hunt around for it. And we actually had one of our friends who's local who didn't see it on Facebook, because there's a lot of chatter on Facebook. And they actually came over directly and paid Mike in cash to back it and bought some other books. So you don't know whether or not people are seeing your posts, but that is one of the things I would say is make sure you use all different ways of getting the word out there. And Mike also did a really great job of getting on a lot of interviews, podcasts, YouTube interviews that he lined up that also gets the information out there.
So what was the second one you did then of Mike's books?
I think Badger was the next one. Wasn't that right, Mike?
No, it's the Nexus.
Nexus, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, as many people know, Nexus has a huge following. Mike has won Eisner Awards for the Nexus graphic novels, comic books, and it really blew out. It went way beyond the goal. I think our goal was like 6,000 or 7,000, and I believe we went what Mike 17,000 or 18,000 on it. So we went. Sorry, I should have written down all these statistics, but basically it went way beyond what the goal was, because people already knew about that project and about that character, and they knew about Mike. So that went really well. And there really wasn't a huge amount of marketing other than setting it up on the crowdfunding.
So would you think it would be a good idea, if you're running a Kickstarter, to put in the original pitch, please be sure to supply us with your address, because Kickstarter does not routinely do that.
Okay, that's a good point. Is one of the other things I was going to say is make sure you're communicating with your backers all along the way. You could communicate, for instance, say, hey, it's the first day and we're already 33% funded or 100% funded. Thank you. Or when it funds. As soon as it funded, I communicated with the backers, and then if you're into the stretch goals, what they are and what it needs to be met. But you could, but I mean, I communicated several times with the backers, and there's still a very small handful of people who never responded, even though I probably emailed at least 3-4 times. And you can do what you can do, but communication is really important. Just letting people know where things are at along the stage. Now, fortunately, everything was on time. All of these crowdfundings, we delivered on time or ahead of time of the deadline. So that went really well. But if some reason, as we know right now with printing, sometimes people are behind their deadlines because they have printers who are printing. So I think a project Mike's working on now, they're printing for yearbooks or other projects ahead. So let your backers know this, so they aren't sitting there and going, why is this not mailed out to me? Why do I not see anything yet?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, and with comic books too, if you're using somebody who does print comics, that they're, if there are big conventions around the same time, then you're going to be backed up too. So it's that stuff you always have to, keep in mind and realize, like she said, you need to pay attention to your printer. It's good to talk to them before if you can and find out, hey, are there big things coming up? Do you have big things that might get backed up? What turnaround time should I tell my backers, so that you're not just, winging it, but you're actually speaking from experience and knowledge.
Yes, exactly. The other thing I would say too is keep your rewards simple. What we did on all of our projects is they were things that could go into an envelope or a padded envelope very easily. I do realize some people get into, they have hats and shirts and tchotchke things, and that's fine, but just realize then you're going to get a little bit more complicated shipping if you're okay with that. And then with books, probably many people know you can ship a media rate, but it's like the slow boat to China. I mean, really just pay a couple of dollars extra and mail it first class. It's going to arrive faster. We've had some people where it was going from Colorado to New York, and they said, oh my gosh, it's been weeks and we haven't received the book. And we can say, we know we mailed it, but it just sometimes takes forever.
We also, for cue ball, we use Print Ninja, which is located in China. So it took about 4 to 5 months after we delivered the material for the comics to arrive on our door. I doubt if we would use a Chinese printer again for many reasons. But for the 2 novels, we used a local printer. So it was done very quick.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that you want to look at is Print Ninja was extremely inexpensive. I mean, they were dirt cheap on their costs, and they did a good quality job. But again, we Mike and I decided to not go through a printer in China for future projects. And Nexus and Badger were both printed with a local printer. I will say they did a great job, and we had a quick turnaround, but it is more expensive. So you have to look into, is it worth supporting a local business or a local printer? Or do you want to go someplace else in the United States where you can get it less expensive and you're not supporting a local business? Those are all factors you have to take in. And when we price the price of the books, we looked at the price of the local printer and then the postage, and then added a little bit on top of that. So actually the artist could be paid as well.
They have a lot of holidays in China too, that the printers have to take. so that's another, it's like she said, it's not just a price thing, it's a time delay thing.
Yeah. The other thing too, I would say, is make sure that when you're doing a crowdfunding that you have good graphics and videos. I have to be honest, I just took my iPhone and interviewed Mike, and that was the introductory video. But if you can afford to actually have a professional videographer do that initial video for you, it's probably worth the money. We were fortunate that Chris Braley is a professional videographer, and as you know, with projects he's done, they've been very well done and look very sharp and professional. But again, you can actually do a crowdfunding on very low budget to get it started.
I was just going to say too, if you know people, there's a lot of people that they may know a good somebody who's good at photography or filming or whatever, but they don't want to like ask them because they're shy or what, or they don't want to feel like, oh, I'm using it's like. But if you have an actual relationship with them, and they're a friend, you should ask them, because a lot of times they will want to help you. And that's one of the great things about Mike, that so many people will say too, is that he's been so generous with them. And this is just so many people, when they're doing Kickstarters and stuff, they get very self-focused and they get kind of selfish and they get only focused on their things. But if you can be more of a giving person and more generous, and you give people the time that you want and treat people the way you want to be treated, it will come back, and you will get things like that. You will get good artists that want to work with you, and good promotional people, and good everything else. That it's benefited Mike to be that way, and I know he's been that way for decades and decades now, and it's come back to help him. Hey, I didn't say a century, but
poor Mike.
No, but I mean, seriously, back when in the '80s, when he was generous to me with the way that he responded in some letters that I sent in, and the way that he did to a lot of other people. I mean, he kind of helped make the careers for several of the people and several of the guests we've had, that just whether it was encouragement or connections or advice, whatever, it pays to be nice.
Yes, that's a really good point. And I would say with my project and with ones I've done for Mike, that really has, you don't be nice just because people are going to do something for you, but it does really help. The other thing I was going to comment on is international shipping. You really, really need to watch that, because that could bite you in the if you don't watch what the cost is. Some places are very expensive to ship to, and also take a really, really long time. So I think Mike is laughing. Don't you have one of your backers that is
one word, Tasmania?
so I actually look through the countries, because it says what are countries you will ship to internationally and you won't. And there are countries that I posted that we would not ship to, because you don't know, for security reasons, if the item would ever arrive to that country. And then I also looked at countries where there was a lot of fans, for instance, Asia, Canada, Australia. There's a lot of France, Italy. There's a lot of fans in those countries. So you do look at that as well. You can choose to not ship international. So for instance, with my book, when I wrote my autobiography, I did not ship international. I posted it only as in the United States. But that's because I'm not a well-known person. So I figured maybe there might be other people in the United States who would want a book, but I didn't think probably internationally there would be that kind of demand. Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep talking then.
Yeah. I keep talking, so I was trying to let Mike do.
Did you have something, Mike?
Well, you could tell people that what else you do is you run several meetup groups, and the purpose of those is to connect people to one another, for not only for friendship but for commercial purposes, and those have had an effect on our Kickstarters, because we have used local videographers and time, and I've run into local talent that we didn't know we had here until Ann hooked us up.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is all of those connections, even if it doesn't seem related, can be maybe down the road useful. The other point I want to make about with the crowdfunding is you need to be organized. You need to know like who you've sent things to, who you have not sent items to. Okay, for some reason my screen is going a little dark. Okay, hopefully you guys can still see me. But you need to be organized and print off your list or keep it in a Excel or CSV or something, so you know who you've mailed items to and who you haven't. And then you also have their address and all that information, and then what type of items have they backed. But I would say be organized. It's going to help you in the long run. The other thing too is when you look at different different crowdfundings, is look at packages. For instance, I have a friend who wrote a book, and I was looking at her Indiegogo crowdfunding. Well, on the ebook, I think she was going to charge people $25 in the ebook and $35 for the print book. Well, we know there really is basically no expense to the ebook. You just email it out, other than a formatting. If you ask or pay someone to format it for you, like Jeff has done great formatting for me. Thank you, Jeff, on my autobiography. But just look at packages, look at costs, so you're not out of line from what a lot of other crowdfunders are doing, because people will comment to you and like, why are you charging me $25 for an ebook? And then there's the other option of doing packages. So for instance, with Mike's books, we would do a package of 10 or 20 comic books or novels and give a price break of maybe 10 or 20% price break, because they may be going to bookstores who want to showcase his books, or it might be someone who wants to give it away to a nonprofit, depending on the topic. Okay. Yep. Okay, I'm going to kind of talk about another topic, which is social media, which really does relate to all of this things with the crowdfunding.
Yep.
And people have different opinions on social media. And again, I'm not going to say I'm the social media expert, but I have run social media for other businesses as well as Mike's and my business. And one of the things I would say that I see is people are not consistent on their social media, whether you choose it to be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. But have some consistent kind of schedule. For instance, you may say, okay, every Wednesday, we're actually doing this with Mike. Every Wednesday, we're going to upload a YouTube video. Or every Friday, I'm going to give some business tip or knowledge tip. But at least do something once a week. I mean, you don't have to do it every day, and you don't have to be on every social media platform out there. Choose the ones that you're comfortable with and that you enjoy being on those platforms.
Yeah,
that's true. Ann has put me on a schedule, and I'm glad she did. We're now uploading a video on writing, usually some aspect of writing, every Wednesday. And also we have a MailChimp list, which is the newsletter. It's our newsletter.
Yeah.
And we send that out twice a month.
And what I was going to, yeah, you can go.
Oh, I think we're doing it once a month, but we're trying to do it on a regular basis. So regardless of what your timing is, just make sure you get on something of a regular schedule. And with Mike's YouTube videos, what I said to Mike is write down possible topics ahead of time for writing. So then when I start videotaping him, he's not just thinking of something randomly. He knows this topic ahead of time. He knows there's going to be a variety of topics, so it's not the same topic over and over. But I would say make sure you're on some kind of a schedule, because otherwise months will go by, weeks will go by, and you've posted nothing on your social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have artists like that.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are like that. It's tough to, especially if you don't have a schedule, and that's what I always tell people to try to do too. And I know there's a lot of people that one of the things that they like to do is they'll do certain things on certain days. They're like, because they, for whatever reason have trouble filming every week. So they'll be like, okay, the first Wednesday of every month, I'm just going to film like 10 videos that I can release over the next, so many weeks or whatever. And it's like, that's the biggest point is, like she said, whatever works for you, because they're connecting with the real you and the person, and more than anything. And that's what's important, is to be consistent, even like you said, whether it's a monthly or weekly, whatever it is, just be consistent. I know there's some people that don't only do stuff like every 3 months. It's like, but just make sure you do it every 3 months. It's like you have to be consistent and with that, or it will really hurt you.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So the other thing, when we talk about schedule, so I do social media for a local roofing company, which, way out of my sphere of knowledge. But the point is that I have a schedule. I do it Monday through Saturday. Sunday I take off, but I have something each day. So Monday would be a Monday inspiration. Tuesday would be a tips or a recognition or a review for the business. Wednesday would be, where is this place located in Northern Colorado? Thursday would be maybe a job or a project they're working on. Friday, maybe a meme or a cute cat or dog photo. Saturday, like, hey, it's a weekend, we're relaxing. So I know each day I don't really have to do a lot of brain damage thinking, oh, this is Monday, what I'm going to do Monday. Oh, Monday's an inspiration. Tuesday's a review. Wednesday's a tip or a project. But the point is that doing something consistently will build up then your followers and your social media. And the other big thing I would say is, it is not about you. I see so many people where they only post about themselves. They don't share other people's posts. They don't comment on other people's posts or feeds. And really, you want to be sharing, commenting on other people that you know in the community, or maybe worldwide, but other people you know, because then that helps their social media get more traction. And if you're, like you said, Jeff, if you're giving back to people, people recognize that, they see it, then they're more likely to comment or share what your posts are. And you're not sharing and commenting just to get people to share yours, but you're really wanting to help promote the other artists or business people or folks in the community.
Yeah.
Artists have a leg up on this because
Yeah.
when we're dealing with comic books, there are so many people that are interested in the art. And I'd like to point out that Bob Layton, whom we interviewed and is on the Baron Earls show, Bob always posts new art several times a week. And people love to see it because comic book art is fun.
Yeah, and that is another good point, Mike, is really use good visuals, especially on Instagram. But people like good visuals. They like new, fresh projects that are coming up, kind of getting that sneak peek. And you can use some really great apps. I use PixArt. I actually pay for it. But then you can have photos that are licensed and you're allowed to use. So make sure you're not using something that you're not allowed to use, or else you can get into trouble. But PixArt, lots of other, Canva, there's a lot of great artistic type of apps that you can use. And that is one of the other things too, is sometimes just use humor. Sometimes I just post a cute picture of our dogs. Of course, we think our dogs are the cutest. Or if you have, scenery, like I had posted on Mike's, his Facebook page, just a little short video of him playing chimes when we were up at Estes Park yesterday.
Badly.
So the thing is that people want to see a person. So if you're doing other things, just showing that human side of you, that really is helpful for people to get to know you. And the other thing that I do say is that, again, it's on the social media. You can feel overwhelmed. There's YouTube, there's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, StreamYard. There's just tons and tons of places. But don't let yourself be overwhelmed. Just do one or two and do them well.
Yeah. What kind of a response have you or the business seen from the roofing, from the social media? I would imagine some of the tips and things are helpful and nice.
I see that people are starting to follow their Instagram or their page, or they comment or like. So I think that is just helpful because it's consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not going to be gangbusters like the new movie or whatever, but I mean, but businesses that have a social media presence, it helps.
People seem to be excited over the shingle of the week.
Okay, Mike. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is that a really important point on social media, no matter what your platform, is be positive and upbeat. If you look at my personal Facebook or my business, and you can't really separate personal for business, people say, oh, I'm going to say this on my personal Facebook page, but it's not going to affect your business. That's not true. People see you as one in the same. But if you look at my Facebook page, you will look and see it's positive, it's upbeat, cute dogs, pretty flowers, artwork I'm working on. So really, people want to come and have some relief from maybe the stress in their life, or maybe things are happening that's not so great in their life. And they don't want to have you, showing some big gashing wound that you had, or, oh no, so-and-so, something happened. I understand that sometimes people find it's an outlet to share some of the things that are happening in their life that maybe isn't always so wonderful. But again, you're trying to build this image of yourself. And if it's always kind of gloom and doom, people start to not really interact as much with you. And our life is certainly not perfect, but go in and look at my Facebook page. You'll see it's very positive and people generally like it.
I wish social media was around when Mike fell through his trap door and his
Okay. Yeah, the other thing is variety. So in your social media and your marketing, again, we've talked about it before, but do variety. It could be a video, it could be a collage, it could be pictures, it could be memes, words, but do a variety so it's not just the same thing day in, day out. People really like that, because and then it's like, oh, this is kind of something different. And again, try to show that personal side of yourself. One of the things is I am not an artist. I call myself a creative, but I like to make greeting cards and little mixed media and different things. So I'll post that. And it's just something fun that I post, or our dogs. There's a lot of dog pictures.
Words of Bob.
Yeah, I think that's kind of run its course. I did that for a couple years, and we're running out of words from Bob, but
yeah, but those are but those are great. It's great. I mean, if you have dogs and stuff to share your dogs and stuff like that, because I mean, there's a lot of people that like dogs. I unfortunately know a lot of people who like cats, but
good too.
I'm more of a dog person myself, but at the same time, whenever I see them post a picture of a cat, it inspires me to make it, to post a picture of the dog or comment on it, or why dogs are better, or whatever, because that's what you want. You want, interaction and everything with people. I was going to ask you with the did you have any advice regarding like crowdfunding with social media, like how soon do you start promoting it? Like how often do you try to promote it on social media?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's definitely a great question. So I would say if you know that you're going to launch it a certain day, then do some kind of pre-marketing saying, hey, it's going to launch so-and-so day. It's going to launch May 1st, get ready. And look at kind of also the timing, so that you want to look at the timing of when you start and when it could end. Like, for instance, you probably don't want a crowdfunding to end on Christmas Day, or something like that. So you look at also what the timing, and then the frequency is probably the beginning. You're doing a little bit more frequent marketing of it. Then kind of midway, you probably don't do as much, just maybe some updates or some marketing here and there. And then when you get in the last 24 hours, especially if you haven't met your goal yet, then there's a big push to really get it out on all channels to let people know we haven't met our goal. We have 24 hours. Please help us to meet the goal. And that was one thing I forgot I was going to mention is Indiegogo and Kickstarter, as many people know, they're different platforms, but they're also different in how they work. For instance, Kickstarter, you have to meet your goal to get your funding. Indiegogo, you don't have to. Indiegogo has two ways. You can set it up where you don't have to meet your goal and you still get the funding, or you have to meet the goal to get the funding. Indiegogo has it both ways. Plus, you can, I think Chris has been doing this on Thin Blue Line. You can also do the on demand. I think that's what it's called on Indiegogo, where people can continue to get the book, even though it's kind of ended as far as the crowdfunding. But I would say I'm tending to lean more towards using the Indiegogo because I think it gives you more flexibility. And then if you don't meet the entire funding goal, you still get the funds and you can use it towards offsetting the costs of printing or whatever rewards that you have done.
Hey, I was gonna since you are creative too, and you are a human who has written a book, can you talk a little bit about your book and what that was like for you, kind of like what's in it, but also the experience of writing it and everything.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I would say it's probably going to be my last book I'm going to write, but it's the first book I wrote. It's an autobiography about, obviously, my life, called Soul Girl. And Jeff was wonderful in helping me formatting and making the cover and the back cover. But I would say with folks, many people say they want to write a book. And basically, I would just say you just have to do it, instead of just, chatting about doing it. Just sit down and do it. Set yourself a goal on when you want to complete it. My goal was to have it completed when I was 60 years old. It happened a year later when I was 61. But at least it was done. I started it, and then it was really difficult because the emotional things of writing a book about yourself and some things that weren't so great in my life. So then I kind of put it on the back burner for months. Then I got back to it going, okay, I really want to get this completed. And people who know me know that if I say I'm going to get something done, I get it done. So I really wanted to fulfill that commitment that I was going to write this book. And when I sat down and wrote it, then I basically completed it in probably like 1 or 2 months.
And I really, it's funny because I don't know that you did, but one of the things that she did that I thought was kind of neat and nice was that she kind of put a lesson that she learned, or like a life lesson at the end of each chapter. So it's like almost like a devotional, or kind of, whatever, self-help or whatever you want to call it. I could see some of those things being like social media posts or whatever to kind of, that would also tie into the book, that you had. But but no, I thought it was a great book. I mean, I think it's better than anything Mike's written personally. But
Oh,
I'm teasing.
no.
I'm teasing. But but I think it's important, people, because you're right. I mean, I think 90% of the people I meet say that they want to write a book, someday, and a lot of them would like to share. If they don't have like a crazy idea, that they would like to write stuff about, either themselves or their family, that something that they don't know, like whether it's a grandparent that was in a war, or like whatever it is. And a lot of people just keep putting it off. So no, I mean, I think it's great.
Many novelists have heard this. Hey, I have a great idea for a novel. I'll tell you, you write it, and we'll split the profits.
Yeah, Mike gets that.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say too, and Mike does this consistently, that he writes every day. And when I decided to complete the autobiography, I just took about 30, 40 minutes every morning, and I just wrote. And then it just really snowballed into writing, getting it completed. The other thing is, obviously, I had a really good consultant in Mike to ask him about the formatting. He said, just go chronological, which is what I did. I'm born in South Korea, then I'm adopted, blah, blah, blah. So I went chronological, and the paragraphs were not, the chapters were really not very long, but that's okay, because I didn't really feel like it had to be, a 1,000-page autobiography. It was just kind of written to give some people inspiration, some points that hopefully they would learn from my life and not do the same. And maybe just also the perspective of being adopted and raised in mostly a Caucasian society, and kind of the perspective on that, which I don't feel bad about. I feel very blessed, and I'm very grateful for being adopted and being raised by my family in America, but just maybe some other perspectives as well.
Yeah. No, I think, I think it's good. I think it's, and honestly, and that's the thing. Some people worry about, they're like writing short chapters. It's like, man, the readers today have the attention span of a goldfish. So it's, it's good to do short. Short is fine. Just as long as you get it done. Yeah, I'm waiting for Mike to write his autobiography.
I'm working on him to get him to do it.
Yeah.
My autobiography is a lot more boring than my creative works.
And I sat down and I wrote.
That's not true.
I wrote this sentence.
The other thing I wanted to touch on as well, which kind of wraps into all of this, is if people want to be their own boss or their own business, and really whether you're creative, you're a comic book, you're an artist, you're a writer, you're a business person, and some tips I would have for folks on that, because you know, Jeff, you read my autobiography. I've done it sometimes very like failed miserably to the point where I lost everything financially to where things are going pretty well now. But I would say with starting a business, one of the big key things is count the costs. So like, let's say you're a comic book artist, you've got this day job over here, and you think, oh, I want to do comic book art full time. Well, count the cost. Do you have enough money in savings? Do you have reserves? Can you pull something from like a HELOC, home equity line of credit? Do you have ways to back yourself while you're growing your business? If you don't, then don't follow my example where you lose a house, you lose your cars, you lose everything, your 401k, and you have nothing, because that's a miserable place to be. I have to say, it taught me a lot, but you don't really want to go down that road if you've got family that you're supporting. So sometimes doing that day job along with building your business is okay. A friend of mine, she's a yoga teacher, and a mentor had said to her, keep your day job while you're building up your yoga practice and business. Don't just stop everything and think, oh, I'm going to make all this money to replace that other income the first year or two. So that's, I know what that noise is. So that's one of the tips. The other thing is do a market analysis. They talk about this in real estate a lot, but really look around, and is there a need? Like if you're an artist or a writer or a business person, is there a need for what you're offering? Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's a great idea and you would love to do it, but maybe there's not that much of a need for it. So then you're competing against a lot of people who are doing it maybe better than you or have been doing it longer. So also be really realistic about yourself. Look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses, look at opportunities, look at other people who are out there doing the same thing. And there is a organization called Small Business Development Center, SBDC, Small Business Development Center. There are many towns across the country, and they're free, and they can give you consulting about your business, how to set it up, budget, set up your business plan. I used to be a consultant for SBDC, but go to them if they're in a town where you live, and they can be really helpful in giving you guidance along the way. I don't know. Is there any? I'll pause if there's any questions on that.
No, I was just, I think that's good advice. I'm trying to remember. Did you do? I know a lot of people too. It depends on your state and everything, but like I know in Florida, and in a lot of states, there's it's a lot easier to get like either loans or grants if you are not white, if you are not male, like different things like that. I mean, there's different ways to do so. I didn't know if you did it. Did you do any kind of a loan like that?
She has not yet done it. I keep encouraging her to do so.
No, I haven't. And the thing is with what I do. So I run a local business networking group. That's really just very low overhead, and that's the thing. Is keep your overhead. I sometimes meet with business people and they're wanting to rush out there and buy a brick and mortar and get hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Don't do that in the beginning. You can rent someplace or work from home or whatever. But you are right. There are loans, there are grants, and I haven't really felt like there's a need to apply for those. The other thing is, look at the time frame of when you think that you can build your business to support yourself, basically. So is it going to be 1 year, 2 years, 3, etc.? The statistics is that in 10 years, I think it's over 90% of businesses that start fail. So you want to just kind of look at that and be realistic. Again, there's people who started their businesses out of a garage and have done fantastically well. So we know who they are, Apple, Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But you have to be realistic, especially if you're the breadwinner and you're supporting a family. you want to look at, you don't want to have your family homeless or something, but
Yep.
you want to look at strategically and realistically how you're building your business. And that, really will help you in the long run.
Yeah, I've shared this before on here, but I'll share it because it applies to this. When I started writing professionally, and actually getting paid to write, I was doing it on my lunch hour. um
Good.
as I had my regular job. I just, and that's, you can do it, even if you have to do, it in, different ways, different chunks or whatever to get things done. It just depends on how much you really want to do it. Some people say they want to do it, but they don't. I mean, if you're aching to do it, you're going to make it happen no matter what. Even if you can only do it on your lunch hour or when you get up first thing in the morning, or whatever. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, and there's lots of people, too, as she's saying. Really look at your business, look at the things that you're doing. There's a lot of people out there who, like with artists or whatever, who have had trouble making a decent living doing their regular stuff, but they've done a lot better. Whether it's been doing videos on YouTube, teaching people how to do things, or they've been, kind of working with there's different things out there now that kind of have different courses that people will pay for, that they'll make like 5 times what they were making before. It's just a matter of like what you want to do, because like, I like teaching. I don't know that I would want to do it full time. But like, if that's your thing and you're gifted, but it's hard, to make a decent amount of money, then, or do like she does, with the, kind of bringing all the different, businesses and entrepreneurs and people together, whatever, look at your skill set. Like, I know that's probably, she's probably like, this is something I'd like to do. Like, I have a vision for this. I'd like to bring together a bunch of, small business people or whatever, so they can learn from each other and encourage each other and inspire each other. And, I'm sure that was part of your, why you've done that for a while now, I think, too, right?
Yeah, yes, I definitely have a passion for that. Another thing, sorry, I keep looking over, but I'm looking at my
That's
notes.
okay.
I did write notes down.
That's
So,
okay. Hey, she wrote notes.
so the other thing I would say is, if you're looking into a certain business, also, let's say, it doesn't really matter, but if you're looking into certain careers or businesses, is talk to people in that field, so that it helps you to kind of get insight on what would they do different, what was successful, what would they learn from it, and then you can shorten that learning curve for yourself by perhaps not doing those same mistakes. I have a friend who lives in New York. She used to live in Colorado, but she's thinking of starting kind of something similar to what I'm doing here, a networking group. And she said, hey, I want to talk to you. Can we Zoom, discuss this? And I said, certainly, I'm glad to help you. And that's really smart on her part, because then she's learning, how do you set it up? How did you get the word out there? How did you get your hosts? How did you market it? And then it reduces how much she has to learn from someone else who's already done this for 5 years. And sometimes people, like with running a networking group, sometimes people think it's really easy, and that I just going to put up that I'm starting a networking group and everyone would start attending. Well, people may at the beginning, because it's new and exciting. It's like the new kid in the classroom. But what happens 2 to 3 years down the road when it's not a new group? Well, people keep attending. And I've consistently continued to have a good attendance at my events. But the thing is that just ask people who've already been in that arena for ideas and input, because that will help you a lot.
Yep. Yeah, trying to think, because she's been involved with so much different stuff. I want to. It's like, yeah, I want to touch on all the different to aspects, but
Ask her about that time that she was riding herd with a cattle drive.
oh, hey, tell us the cattle drive story. City Slickers.
I actually did run a fireworks stand one summer, and that.
Oh, that's right.
That was kind of interesting. So that kind of comes to the point of where nothing is beneath you. I have a college education. I've usually worked in the professional world, but sometimes there's jobs that you just need to take because maybe they pay decent, they're available. But a friend of mine owns several fireworks stands in northern Colorado, and she said, "Will you manage them for me? I will pay you $3,000 for 2 weeks." I'm thinking, heck yeah, I can pretty much do almost anything for 2 weeks for $3,000. And this is almost 20 years ago. And it was interesting because you're out there and a lot of cash is going through. You're trying to get employees, not employees, but people to help workers and that type of thing. And don't ever look at yourself as that is beneath me or beneath what I, my experience or my education, because then that's when you're just, well, I don't know, just don't think so highly of yourself, I guess I say.
Yeah. So what? Cattle drive. Come on.
I have not.
She ran that fireworks stand without blowing herself up.
That's, I mean.
I did teach 8th graders, so that was a little bit like herding cattle.
Yeah. I would think so. Let's yeah, and kind of on the note of like what you said too, of like, just being realistic and everything. A lot of people know, they may not, but we live in a kind of a rural area in Florida, but there's not really a comic store or not too many geeky kind of things anywhere around us. So, and he's been dying to open something, so he did, but he did it at the flea market. And but he's been doing good because
that's a good idea.
Because his overhead is like nothing. It's like I mean it's like I don't know. I think it's like $200 for a month, but that's because he has like a double wide booth. But in which, so normally it'd be like 100 or something. I mean, but yeah. And he got like a decent one. It's kind of enclosed, and he even just got an AC thing from this guy the other day. But I mean, his isn't that bad because they actually have like a fan and stuff near there and everything too. But it's like, yeah, you can be smart because everything costs money, and a lot of people don't think about the overhead, and they do try to do the big brick and mortar or whatever because that's like the dream. Yeah, obviously. I mean, that's that would be great. But it's not always realistic, and those things are very expensive, especially if you get it near a road that's important. It's like $1 million a month or what. It's like you have to be smart. And take time to build it. Like she said, don't think of yourself as too big or too great or whatever either.
Well, I'm going to kind of wrap up with a couple of points. So I used to be a school teacher. So we learn when you teach. You tell what you're going to tell them. You tell them what you're telling them, and then you repeat what you told them. Yep. But so in crowdfunding, I would say research, multiple ways to communicate. Make sure that you have good graphics and you communicate with your backers. And then with social media, make sure that you share, comment on other people's posts, that it's not just about you. Make sure there's a variety of type of ways on social media, videos, pictures, memes, texts, and also and humor. And also make sure that you are consistent on your social media, whether it's once a week, once a month, twice a month, but make sure you're consistent. And most of all, have fun, be excited about what you're doing, enjoy it, and also don't just work all the time. Do things that are also, yesterday, Mike and I went to Estes Park for a half a day. So do some things that make enjoyment and that give you a refreshment and a break, because you can't work all the time, but just enjoy what you do and also make the most of your life each day.
Yep. That's good advice. You have any closing words, Mike? Anything you need to tell Ann that you're sorry for?
My advice is to always listen to your wife.
Yes.
Oh, what a pushover.
Mike's a good guy. Well, thank you guys again for interviewing me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being on. Sorry you have to put up with Mike for the rest of the day.
No, she's going out.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I have meetings.
Oh, fun. Work. Well, thanks for being on. We'll see you.
Okay. Bye.